Education Committee will come to order. I apologize for delay. There's a few little bills over in L&O this morning. Please silence your cell phones. If you wish to speak, you need to sign up at the back. It'll sit there for about 2 minutes, and then we'll collect that, those who are to speak for and against. We have 4 bills for consideration today. First, please call the roll. I guess we need to call the roll first.
Senator Carroll. Senator Funke Fromeyer. Senator Givens.
Here.
Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Wilson.
Here.
Senator Wise.
Here.
Senator Williams.
Here.
Chair West.
Here. We have to keep this meeting pretty tight. We're going to start to lose members to Ag and other committees soon. So the presenters, when you come forward, if you would make it really tight with your comments. First up, we have House Bill 241, Act relating to compulsory attendance. Good morning. If you would state your name for the record, and please proceed.
My name is Jacob Justice. I'm representative from the 94th District, Pike County. I just want to say the title of this bill is a little bit misleading. House Bill 241 simply changes a form that must be signed in order for a student in the care of a behavioral health facility to continue receiving education services.
Motion on the bill.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from members on the bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Funke Fromeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Williams.
Aye.
Senator Wilson. Senator Wise. Chair West.
Aye. Senate Bill 241 passes with a vote of 9 ayes, 0 nays, and has favorable expression. Do we have a motion for consent?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. House Bill 241 is on consent.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee.
Congratulations. Thank you. Next up, we have House Bill 538, an act relating to discipline of students. If the presenter and speakers would state their name for the record, please proceed.
Representative Tim Truitt, 89th District.
Eric Kendi, the Director of Advocacy for the Kentucky School Boards Association.
Before you start, we do have a sub. Is there a motion on the sub? We have a motion. A motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting the sub say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Sub is adopted. Please proceed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senate committee members. This is a school discipline bill. I'm sure you guys are much like me, are getting calls, if not daily, weekly, from educators concerned with their safety of not only themselves but also students in their classroom. This bill, in my opinion, will address a couple of those issues that that they say are contributing to our teacher loss and the problems we're having with retention and recruitment. We hear a lot about pay, we hear a lot about support, we hear a lot about respect. Support and respect are the two issues that this bill will help address. I've not got the committee sub in front of me, but I've seen a few versions of it, so I'm not sure how that changes the bill exactly. But this bill will help ensure that those students who are wanting to be in school, who are wanting to be there to learn, have that opportunity to do so, it opens up another option for schools, for administrators, and for superintendents for handling these students who are deemed chronically disruptive. with opening up this virtual option. As a principal, I know that virtual is not as good of an option as in person. I understand that. But I also understand that a student who is being chronically disruptive or abusive or harassing teachers or other students does also not need to be in the classroom with these students who want to be there to learn. And with every teacher that I've talked to, there have been zero concerns raised about this bill. They actually like the fact that they have that empowerment part to where if there's a student that is disruptive, that they have the authority to and the administrator there to kind of help facilitate that issue to where we can maintain order in the classroom.
Sorry, we're getting ready to take questions, but before we do so, Representative Truitt, I just want to call your attention to page 4 of 8 in the sub, and that the Senate version, we gave the principal the right to establish those procedures rather than mandating that the teacher do this. And so that was our only Senate change to the bill. So I just want to make sure we're
Thank
on
you.
the same page. Everything. Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Thank you for this excellent work. I'm a senator with 11 independent school districts, and we have heard and just underappreciate our teachers. So this is so excellent. Also, I spent a lot of hours on a school bus growing up. So I'm wondering, when you've created an alternative learning environment or the principal has agreed upon it, how does that student get to and fro? Are they allowed to ride the school bus? Because if you think that they're disruptive in the classroom, just put them on a school bus for a minute.
Oh, I agree completely. I drove a bus for 19 years, so I feel your pain. I tell people all the time that teaching is tough, but driving a bus is much tougher because they're behind you, got your, no eyes in the back of your head. But yes, it just depends. Obviously, if that alternative placement is in the school setting, maybe at a resource room or a alternative, then we would still provide that transportation. But if we chose virtual from home, then obviously. And I think that we're going to leave this up to the districts and the superintendents to make that decision. The big part is now we have that option. Now we have that option of saying, you know what, we can use virtual as a form of discipline. So I think that's going to open up a lot of doors. And the way that we leave it up to each district and each school and each student behavior policy, I think it could be a very positive impact on public education.
Any other questions from members? Senator Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, great bill. Really appreciate what you've got and supportive of it. Just with your years of being in education, I hear quite often teachers and others within the school system say, it is a discipline issue because kids are much different today than how they were years ago. I'd just like to get your thoughts on that. Do you see that as post-COVID? Is this a societal issue? Is it a lack of parenting? Maybe a combination of all of these. But in terms of your nearly 20, maybe 20 plus years, is that truly what the thoughts are right now of us having a hard time retaining and recruiting? How much is it that the child has changed?
Senator Wise, that's a tough question. But I agree. I think it's a combination of everything. But I was thinking last night as I was traveling home late at night, and I was thinking about the fact that, I wanted to get home really quick. And, I'm on the 75. I've got about an hour and 45-minute trip every evening. And, my old truck, it'll probably run 120, probably. Not that I've tried that, but I believe it would. But, I like to get home as quick as I can. But, anytime I see one of those gray vehicles parked off on the side of the road, a lot of times that will deter me from driving as fast as I would like to drive. So I think that sometimes we have to have those measures in place to deter these actions. I was always a student that tried to push the limit. I wasn't a mean kid at all, but I was mischievous, and I would go right up as far as I could go. And every teacher was different. I had some teachers that I never opened my mouth in. Some teachers that I could walk all over just because they would allow me. So I think these policies that we set in place and we leave a little bit of bite to these policies, I think that's going to help. Now, will that solve all issues? No, it will not. We still have a lot of issues at home, and it's sad, but educators today, we're also dealing with a lot more responsibilities than just educating. We're that positive male role model in my school. I'm sometimes their best dad they've got. And so there's a lot of issues that we are battling, but I think that this bill opens up some avenues and sets some guardrails to where students will see, hey, this is my second or third time I've been to the principal's office talking to the principal. Maybe I need to kind of curb my actions in the classroom. So I'm hoping that's what happens.
If that was a tough question, that was an excellent answer. Thank you very much.
Senator Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and excellent bill. Appreciate you bringing it today. But I want to answer Senator Wise's question in part, and I think you'll enjoy this. This is from Frank Martin, who used to be coach of South Carolina. He said, "You know what makes me sick to my stomach? When I hear grown people say that kids have changed. Kids haven't changed. Kids don't know anything about anything. We've changed as adults. We demand less of kids. We expect less of kids. We make their lives easier instead of preparing them for what life is truly about. We're the ones that have changed." And I think probably we're all in agreement with that. And I've heard a lot of focus on parental rights this session. And to have that right, you also have responsibilities, and we're not living up to those. So I hope it's a new day, but I appreciate your bill. Very much needed. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to a vote. Do we have a motion? Senator Neal has a question. This will wrap it up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just curious, have you received any opposition to this legislation in this process? And what's the nature of that, if so?
Okay. We did a talk last night with KET, and we had Representative Wilner, who kind of spoke in opposition of the bill, and then we had Mr. Rashad, is that right, from Kamar Rashad from Jefferson County, and they were. And I'm going to speak as best I can in but their concern was that they thought this might affect the minority population, causing more minority students to be kicked out of school or suspended, and so that was kind of their concern. And I hate to speak for their words, but that's kind of. Eric, you want to add anything?
I think those, to my knowledge, when this passed out of the House, there were a few no votes, and it was not an issue of party, it seemed. There were a few members of each party that voted no. I think there were some concerns with just making sure that there was due process in the bill, which there is. I think that's been spoken to very well. And then the other concerns that I can remember were concerned that this, which are already a concern for some of those folks, that any school discipline might disproportionately impact students in minority groups. I think there are some protections, not only in the words that you see in this one particular statute, but as well as sort of federal guidance and ultimately even Supreme Court decisions that say that anything that happens in school discipline cannot be arbitrary, must be fair, must have due process. But I think that's the only known opposition or even comments in opposition that's been there.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. I've been reminded of that. We will now vote. Mariah, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Funke Fromeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal.
I'd like to explain my past vote. Not that I'm necessarily in opposition here. I just wanted to get more information concerning the response I just received. Thank you. Pass.
Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas, Senator Tishner, Senator Williams, Senator Wilson, Senator Wise, Chair West.
Aye. House Bill 538 passes with a vote of 8 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 pass, and shall be reported favorably. And I just want to let you know, Representative Truitt, you're in really good company, because a bus driver can make something of themselves. Senator Schickel drove a bus for many, many years, and I just came from his committee, so he's done well here.
There you go. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call an audible real quick. Representative Fugate, I'm going to call you last, because we're going to probably spend a little bit more time on your bill. Up next, we're going to have HCR 59, a concurrent resolution recognizing the Kentucky College of Art and Design. If you would please come forward and state your name for the record, and then proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Nemus. I'm the House Representative for District 33, Jefferson, Oldham, and Shelby counties.
Moira Payne, President of Kentucky College of Art and Design.
Please proceed.
I'd like to get my member up here as quick as possible, Mr. Fugate, so we'll be very quick. We're talking about the Kentucky College of Art and Design, and rather than me take time, I'll have the expert and allow her to give her remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here to look for support for an art college that is coming up strong and offering an alternative opportunity for higher education in Kentucky. We bring alternative students into the higher education system, and we give them the opportunity of developing career skills that will have them in good standing as they leave 4 years of education. We are the only independent College of Art and Design in Kentucky, licensed and currently in the process of seeking accreditation. We've steadied up, we're growing, and the college is doing very well. I think it's time now for us to look for the recognition that will carry us forward. Our students are coming out at the highest level. They have been accepted for the Royal College in London, Goldsmiths in London, CalArts on the West Coast, and we feel that we can evidence the success of the quality of our teaching and learning. Our students learn, obviously they work with the humanities and the arts, and they leave competent in writing, maths, and the other skills. They come out with an interdisciplinary opportunity, digital skills that will enable them to get jobs. And we know from recent statistics that art colleges produce graduates who do good art colleges, produce graduates who go on to find employment in their field. We know that the creative and cultural industries are a huge part of this country's GDP. In fact, the creative and cultural industries produce a larger proportion of the country's GDP than sports do. And so the evidence for the success of the arts is strong. And over the last 10, 15 years, the arts have begun to gather the data to support these arguments. I think our students will leave as sort of fully able to work with digital media as well as the traditional medias in art and design. We feel that we're the missing link in Kentucky. Kentucky is recognized for its arts and crafts, but as yet does not have a central and independent, well, we are building the only central independent College of Art and Design. And we feel that we're coming through with great success. We also immediately put our students in the situation where they have they're part of an international conversation. The arts is a global industry, and our students are able to be part of that the minute they graduate. We are currently taking our students in 6 weeks. We'll be taking all of our students to London and Scotland. We'll be introducing them to other international opportunities in the arts and artists, and the potential of the college is huge, and I'm looking for support here today and recognition.
Mr. Chairman, and this isn't just about beautiful and impressive art, it's also about economic advancement for our Commonwealth, and it's a pride point for our Commonwealth as well.
Motion.
We have a motion on the bill. Do we have a second? We have a second? Any questions? Excellent presentation. I realize this is a big deal when it comes to accreditation, and happy to support. Please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Funke Fromeyer. Aye. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to pass. I believe that's consistent with the rules and that I serve on the board of this institution, and I'll leave it there. Thank you. Pass.
Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas.
Aye.
Senator Tishner. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise. Chair West.
Aye. House Concurrent Resolution 59 passes with a vote of 8 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 pass vote. With favorable expression, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Chairman.
Thank you, members of the
Up
committee.
next, we have House Bill 547, an act relating to the First Amendment rights in public schools. Representative, welcome to the committee. When you're ready, state your name for the record and please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Fugit, State Representative of 84th District in Perry, Breathitt, and Owsley counties. House Bill 547 is a bill that protects teachers, coaches, faculty, and staff of our public school systems, their religious freedoms. In 2015, football coach Joe Kennedy of the Bremerton High School in Washington State was fired for expressing his First Amendment right of praying after football games that his team had participated in. Shortly after, a lawsuit was filed, and in 2022, the United States Supreme Court ruled in favor of Coach Kennedy's right of the First Amendment right on a 6-3 ruling. The Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote in an opinion, "Respect for religious freedom expressions is indispensable to life in a free and diverse republic, whether those expressions take place in a sanctuary or on a field, and whether they manifest through the spoken word or a bowed head." House Bill 547 ensures that faculty will have the right to express their faith. They may sponsor student religious activities, and they are protected from coercion and threats by government officials. It gives our teachers and faculty the ability to engage in religious expression and share religious materials and with other employees at the same time in the same manner that other employees are permitted to engage in non-religious expression and discussions outside the scope of duties. It allows them to engage in private religious expression at a time when it is otherwise permissible for an employee to engage in private expressive conduct, or employees allowed to act outside the scope of duties. I'd be glad to answer any questions if the committee has questions concerning House Bill 547.
Thank you, Representative. We have speakers signed up to speak for and against, but before we get there, we're going to go ahead and take a couple questions.
All right.
Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Thank you for bringing this bill. My brother is a football coach at a middle school and feels very passionate about this. Fellowship for Christian Athletes
Yes,
has
ma'am.
been very active in his life. So on page 1 of 2 in that section 3, it would be right around 19, engage in private religious expression when at a time when it is otherwise permissible. And then I think C talks about, would that be an opportunity for a Bible study? Is that an opportunity that they could collect a group of students that might even want to be part of the Rosary Club or something?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Senator Thomas.
Representative Fugate, my question is equally direct. I briefly looked at that Washington State case that the Supreme Court said the coach had a right to do what he did.
Yes, sir.
My question is, as I read this bill, why do we need it when we can do that now? A teacher on his or her off-duty time in private discussions can certainly express their religious beliefs, without any indication of repercussions. I'm a former president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes when I was in school. I believe strongly in that organization. I just don't see why we need this bill. What's the intent behind you bringing it? We don't have that problem in Kentucky now.
Well, actually, I think that we shouldn't need this bill. We absolutely should not need this bill. But because of people from the outside of Kentucky writing letters and trying to stop teachers and faculty from expressing their religious beliefs, that it has created a fear inside our school systems that those who have faith in Christ a lot of times are feared because they're afraid of lawsuits and different things coming their way. So this bill, House Bill 547, I think would let our school staff, faculties, teachers, would let them know that the Kentucky State Legislature is on their side of the First Amendment right, along with the United States Supreme Court. And it basically codifies into Kentucky language what the Supreme Court ruled in 2022.
Next, seeing no further questions, I'm going to, if you could step back, Representative Fugate, we're going to bring up those opposed to the bill to speak. We have the ACLU of Kentucky and we have JCRC. If you could both come up together. And if you could state the name of your organization, your names, and the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Chairman West and members of the Senate Education Committee for allowing me to testify this morning. My name is Kungo Jaguna, and I'm a policy strategist with the ACLU of Kentucky. First, I do want to thank Representative Fugate for meeting with me and talking with me about this bill. Him and I just disagree on what the bill does. We all know that the U.S. Constitution has long held that church and state should be separate, as outlined in the First Amendment and is interpreted by the United States Supreme Court in First Amendment case law. The U.S. Supreme Court in Kennedy versus Birmingham School District did not change that. The court's decision in Kennedy was very limited, and the private religious expression it held did not run afoul of the First Amendment. Specifically, here's what the court permitted. It permitted Coach Kennedy to wait until the football game was over, his players had left the field, then he was permitted to walk to midfield, say a brief, quiet, personal prayer. That's it. That's the conduct the court permitted. What the Supreme Court simply upheld was the right of a public school employee to engage in a quiet, private, brief act of prayer that was not endorsed by the school, fell outside his official duties, and did not involve or pressure students to participate. Unfortunately, House Bill 547, as it's currently written, goes way further than that. For example, Section 2 would only permit schools to punish a teacher who engaged in actual coercion of students. But our case law is clear that teachers also cannot endorse or promote a religion. Section 3D is also problematic. Case law is clear. School employees may not take part in religious activities in their roles as official staff sponsors of school clubs, whether or not those clubs are religious. 3G is also problematic. School employees may not engage in religious expression with students or share religious materials while on duty, even during non-instructional time. That has always been the law, and it still is today. These sections go far beyond Kennedy. To be clear, neither teachers nor students shed their constitutional rights when they enter the schoolhouse gate. But the court has also been clear. None of this means that the speech rights of school employees are so boundless that they may deliver any message to anyone at any time they wish. House Bill 547 bends more toward the anytime, anything they wish. We should remember, even though they are private citizens, the court has also held it must be remembered that teachers are government employees paid to speak on behalf of the government and convey its message. This bill, as written, is likely unconstitutional, and it invites timely and costly litigation from both students and families who may be the subject of this religious expression by teachers, and also from teachers who might sue to say they are entitled to engage in this conduct. In order to stand up for religious expression for all individuals, you should vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Hi, Beth Solomon. I'm the
Relations Council.
Hold on one moment. You need to pull it a little closer. Make sure the green light's on.
Okay, sorry
Please
about that.
proceed.
Okay, Beth Solomon, Chair of the Jewish Community Relations Council. Mr. Chairman and Senators, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am here with the support of the Jewish community of Louisville, Lexington's Jewish Federation of the Bluegrass, Interfaith Path to Peace, the Louisville chapter of the National Council of Jewish Women, the Kentucky Unitarians United Justice Action Network, and the Louisville Board of Rabbis and Cantors, voting unanimously, all of whom oppose HB 547 in its present form. Much of the bill is a restatement of the constitutional right of teachers to privately pray off-duty. We absolutely support that those rights exist without this law. We also absolutely support that teachers should have the right to privately pray, as in Kennedy. However, other provisions of the bill we cannot support, especially those that allow teachers and administrators, while on duty but in non-instructional time, to engage in religious expression and share religious materials with their students. I am a practicing Jew, and I'm also the parent of 2 boys. As a parent, I have the religious obligation to instruct my children to be people of faith. Deuteronomy commands me to teach the words of my tradition faithfully to my children and talk to them in my house and on my way, when I lie down and when I rise up. My constitutional freedom of practice in this wonderful country prevents a government employee in the position of authority from instructing my children in their faith. My children are not in the position to speak out and command school authorities interfere with what they are taught at home. Rather, children should expect their school administration to protect them from implied coercion. And when a person who has the power over your children's grades, your children's future success, is also the one asking that your children accept religious materials or submit to their religious expression, it is implied coercion, and that is unconstitutional. But that is exactly the type of activity allowed under Section 2 and 3G of this bill. The founders of our country knew the dangers of a union of church and state from bitter personal experience, and demanded that government institutions like public schools would not be used to control, support, or influence religious exercise in any way. That has not changed in 2022. This law does not meet that mark. Additionally, for the last 132 years, Kentucky has enshrined religious liberty and freedoms in its Constitution that Kentucky framers felt necessary to include beyond the federal Constitution. This includes a parent's right to be free from interference with his or her conscientious objection to religious activities at school. Under the new framework from the United States Supreme Court, we are required to ask why our Kentucky constitutional framers chose to include this important protection about our public schools, which is absent from the federal Constitution. Because of these important constitutional considerations, Kentucky and federal, impacting the free exercise of religion by parents, I beg you not to pass this bill in its present form, and we will pledge to work with you to make this bill a better bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from members for Senator Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when I was a very young man, I didn't have a family that exposed me to faith, to God, to Jesus. What about me? No, not you, ma'am.
I would say that there are many, many religious institutions where someone such as yourself could go learn about faith.
I was a child. I didn't have that opportunity. What about me? The only exposure I had was with family, friends, and teachers. What about me?
I would encourage you to go to those people outside of school hours. Okay. My child, when he was 9 years old, had to sit in a dugout by himself while the rest of his team went and prayed. So my child was excluded from a group activity with his coach and his teammates. And that's a really hard thing for a 9-year-old to have to do.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Senator Neal was first. Please proceed.
Questions for Fugit.
Okay, Representative Fugit will be back up in a second. Yeah. Senator Funky Frommeyer.
Thank you, Mrs. Solomon, for your testimony. When you suggested in Section 3G, you also expressed your responsibilities in instruction. How would you change 3G to be more accepting?
I would just ask that the private prayer not be extended to children. I understand that, if I want to pray before I eat, for example, if I were a teacher at school, I would think that that would be not only allowed but encouraged. I think anybody of any faith should be able to privately express their religious beliefs. However, I would just ask that teachers and coaches not pass out materials to my children without my knowledge or my say-so beforehand. I feel like that is my right as a parent to control what my kids get to see.
That actually didn't answer 3G at all, but because it says during non-instructional time, and you referred to instructional time.
Well, I would say non-instructional time. Would that include sporting events after school? Because if it would, I would ask that that would not be part of the bill.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions in this segment, we do have the Family Foundation set to speak next. If they would approach at this time. Mr. Johnson, you're speaking on a wide variety of topics today.
I am. So, y'all
Please
are keeping me busy.
We've both been busy.
Yeah.
Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Yeah. Michael Johnson, Senior Policy Advisor for the Family Foundation.
I'm sorry, could you pull that microphone a little closer there, please?
Sure. So, Michael Johnson, Senior Policy Advisor for the Family Foundation. Thank you, Chairman West and members, for letting me come speak here briefly. As the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized for almost 50 years, neither students nor teachers shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. However, Joseph Kennedy, Coach Kennedy, in this case, lost his job as a high school football coach because he knelt at midfield after games to offer a quiet prayer of thanks because a school district mistakenly believed that the Establishment Clause required the government to single out private religious speech for special disfavor. This bill, HB 547, simply provides Kentucky's school administrators and personnel clarity by enshrining key aspects of the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling in Kennedy v. Bremerton School District and ensures that religious liberty rights of the Commonwealth's teachers are protected. The Free Exercise Clause protects not only the right to harbor religious beliefs inwardly and secretly, it does perhaps its most important work by protecting the ability of those who hold religious beliefs of all kinds to live out their faith in daily life through the performance or the abstention from physical acts. The importance of this constitutional principle cannot be overstated. After all, the Constitution and the best of our traditions counsel mutual respect and tolerance, not censorship and suppression, for religious and non-religious views alike. Respect for religious expressions is indispensable to life in a free and diverse republic. Whether those expressions take place in a sanctuary or on a field, and whether they manifest through the spoken word or bowed head. It's for these reasons that we urge you to support HB 547. Thank you for your time.
Any questions from members for Mr. Johnson at this time? Seeing none, Representative Fugate, if you would come back forward. I believe we had a question from Senator Neal.
Yes, sir.
Actually, my question now is of the gentleman that just spoke.
Okay.
I apologize.
Senator Neal, you're being very difficult today.
Tell me something new. I apologize.
That's right. That is your job. Mr. Johnson, if you would step back forward, please. Senator Neal has a question.
I'm just, thank you very much for your testimony. This is subject matter that I've dealt with as an instructor over a period of time at the university level. Are you saying that Section 2 specifically, Section 2, 3D, and G are permissible under the current interpretation of law?
I don't have the copy right in front of me, but I do believe that.
Well, I
that
want
is
you
the
to have it
case.
in front of you so you can give me
Yes,
a
sir.
specific, informed answer.
Yep. All right. Which sections again, sir?
2, 3D, and G. And the reason I pulled those sections out is that the speakers before you pulled these out and indicated that these were that Coach Kennedy, the ruling in that particular case was narrowly applied, or at least interpreted, and this seems like a broader interpretation of that than what that case did. That's what I'm trying to ferret out in my own mind.
Yeah, I do believe that they are permissible. In section 2, I think it says engaging private religious expression otherwise protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. I think that is sound.
Let me ask you another
Yes.
way, because
No,
I don't want to
sure.
struggle through this. Is there case law that you're aware of that specifically permits these actions to take place? That's what I wanted to understand. And if so, what is that?
Well, I think the U.S. Supreme Court has been clear that
I'm looking for a case.
Right. So that you don't show special disfavor towards religious actions. A lot of what this bill is it's
I'm just
equal
asking.
treatment.
I'm sorry to interrupt you because I don't want to take all this time. I'm just asking if you know of a specific case that allows this. I know what doesn't. I'm trying to figure out what does.
Senator Neal, I believe that the case Kennedy versus Bremerton High School allows that under the ruling of the United States Supreme Court, and the affirmation of the First Amendment right of not only Coach Kennedy but all those who would work in a public place, including public schools.
You just cleared it up. I should have asked you the first time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond, I know you to some comments earlier. You know, in America, where we were founded upon the principles of the Bible, in the last few years, we've been asked to not live out our faith, basically. When we go into a school and we go into a government building, we're all of a sudden supposed to take off that religious hat and put it at the door. Principles that guided us, that do guide us, that have guided us in the country. We can go to a ball game and at halftime they play music like I'm on the Highway to Hell by AC/DC at high school ball games. But a kid can't stand up, or a teacher couldn't stand up and pray at a ball game at halftime or sing Jesus Loves Me or any other religious song. We've been asked to keep our mouth shut while Highway to Hell, and some would say, well, that's not a religious song. Absolutely, it is a religious song. It's a satanic song. It's a satanic religious song. And this bill only gives the teachers and the faculty of schools the ability to live out their faith like the Constitution of the United States under the First Amendment allows them to. That's what this bill does. And it tells those of not just the Christian religion, but if your religion is protected under this First Amendment. And it encourages, if there's anything in the world that our kids in our schools need today, is teachers who can help guide them along and not have a fear of some outside of the state group trying to prohibit them from having their First Amendment right. This doesn't give anybody the right to stand up in a classroom and preach the Bible on Monday morning. It gives them the right during non-instructional time to live out their faith and be who God wants them to be. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Fugate. That concludes questions. We have no one else on the list at this time. It's time to take a vote. Do I hear a motion on House Bill 547? Senator Williams, motion. Senator Funky Fromeyer, second. Mariah, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal.
explain my past vote at this time. I'm inclined to vote no because my analysis and interpretation of the case law that we're talking about is not consistent with what I'm hearing in the presentation. And let me reference the fact that, I consider myself a man of faith. I am a true believer. But I also believe that we ought to follow and conduct our behavior in the framework of the law. And as I interpret the law from my legal background, my analysis and my instructional background, this aspects of this would not be consistent with that. I think it's likely unconstitutional, at least part of it. Now, part of this I really like, I think fits very well within it, and that's why I hesitate and I pass as opposed to saying no. At this point, that may change. I'm going to do a little more investigation, but thank you for coming forward and presenting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Stivers, Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'll explain my no vote.
Please proceed.
On this measure, I'm very comfortable voting no because, to begin with, I'm a man of deep faith. I'm a Christian. Have been embedded in the Christian religion all my life. I was in church on Sunday. I'd get up an hour early because we lost time to make sure I was in church. I go to church regularly, very active in my church. But I understand there's a time and place for worship and there's a time and place for other things. I'm not as much troubled about 2D because I do believe in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. As I said, when I was in high school, I was president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and I think religion has its place there. When I went to high school, we prayed before football games and before track meets. It wasn't seen as anything bad or negative then. I had no problem doing it. I can see how that's changed now, and I'm okay. If you still want to pray before a sporting event, you still have that right privately to do so. Okay, and I probably would do that. Okay. But G really worries me because what's non-instructional time? Is playing sports non-instructional? You could make that argument. Is having lunch non-instructional? You could make that argument. I think the way I read this bill, it really goes beyond the Bremerton case. It allows teachers to do things that I think exceeds the reasoning and the decision in that case. I'm a little worried about that. And sometimes we use these statutes as a veil to try to promote religion. I don't really want to do that either. I think if you want to be religious, you can find ways to do that outside trying to create these laws. And I will tell you that Representative Fugate, that I voted just a couple of years ago to have a Bible class. If we want to have an educational class on the Bible, I'm all for that. I'm all for teaching religion in school. I believe that that's an important subject that could be taught, but to proselytize, which I think what this bill is doing in this instance, that goes too far for me. There's a time and place for everything. I think this proselytization goes too far, and that's why I vote no.
Senator Tishner, Senator Williams.
Please proceed.
Yeah, I'm voting aye. Because they talk about non-religious expression, and in G, we're talking about private expression. But today, we see a lot of what is, quote, non-religious expression, or what is, quote, private expression, which is really coercion into non-religious activities, into private activities that are not supported by the community of any faith. And what we really need to do is encourage private expressions and religious expressions of all faith on how they can get along together, and not say these religious expressions, these private expressions aren't permitted, but these are, because they all reflect our core values, and we all need to get along with our various different religious faiths and be able to be encouraged in each one of them. So I vote aye.
Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Aye.
Chair West.
Aye. House Bill 547 passes with a vote of 7 ayes, 1 no, and 1 pass vote, and has favorable expression. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
That concludes this meeting of.
I got to record 2 votes.
No problem. Please proceed, Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman West. Mr. Chairman West, I was away from the committee when we voted on House Bill 241. I want to express my aye vote there so that bill can stay on consent. No problem with that. On House Bill 538, I will follow Senator Neal and I'll pass on that. I may vote for it on the floor, but yeah, I read that bill last night too, and I have some concerns, as we expressed it on the floor before, about the extent of discretion and the abuse of discretion that might take place there with regard to discipline of students. So therefore, I'm going to pass at the present time.
Okay. We also have Senator Neal. I apologize, Senator Neal almost got out here without coming back to you. Please proceed. The committee will stand at ease. If everybody would just, whoever's left, just stay for a second. We'll see concerning consent. So
59, he's fine.
So he can abstain and we can still do consent.
Well, we didn't put it on consent.
We can't do consent without a motion.
That's what I'm saying. We don't have a quorum now, so we can't do that. We can do motion in a second with people left.
So he abstained, so there's now no pass.
Right.
So now we can make a motion for consent.
So someone would like to make a
Let's
motion.
look before we do anything. Let's measure twice and cut once. So we're allowed without full committee to do a consent.
Yeah, you're just, isn't that true?
Oh, okay.
We're just making a motion, putting it on consent.
And my
Yeah.
understanding, Senator Neal, is they want it to go on consent. Is that you okay with that? Okay, I'll make
I second. I second. I second.
You want to make the motion for consent? Or you want me to?
He shouldn't do anything.
God, he cannot. I'm sorry.
I made the motion.
Gerald, Senator Neal, I'm trying to get you in trouble, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's a trick.
We have a bipartisan motion for consent.
Yes,
Gotcha.
Williams and Thomas, all in favor.
All in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it.